Is it? We're on.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming to do this.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
For our inaugural podcast.
I feel honoured.
Is that the right word, inaugural?
Yeah, I think so.
So what have you been up to today?
I've been working for another client. They run a number of trade magazines in Crawley, creepy Crawley. But it's good. It's good fun. It's good fun. I've been helping them digitise all their content and arranging all their contracts and bits and pieces. And but it sounds a bit boring, but they own lots of really cool franchise like World's 50 Best Bars and World Steak things. So it's quite cool. Last Christmas I got quite a few kind of like bits of sake, loads of bottles of sake.
Nice.
Award-winning sake. And there's lots of nice little freebies. So it's quite good. Everything I do is kind of like drink, games. Used to work in the motor industry before then, so it's all kind of like boys' toys things.
You're into music and art as well, aren't you? So
yeah.
do you work in that at all, or is it just hobbies?
Yeah, I get dragged into it. I think one of the reasons why, this is quite a kind of discreet little story, but one of the reasons why I think I actually got into law was because ages ago, some of my family got dragged into becoming a manager of quite a famous reggae artist, and they lost quite a lot of money. And I realised how important it was for creative people to learn about their rights. So I think that was something that kind of always kind of like affected me as a kid.
How old are you then?
All I remember was handing out flyers with my dad at Reggae Sunsplash in the 80s. So I was like, probably about, 12, 10, something like that, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's quite funny.
You remember thinking that?
Yeah.
So did you know what you wanted to do, from an early age?
I think when I first started, I was really into taking apart electronic bits and pieces and put them back together again, like radiograms and old amps. And I muck around with amps now because I'm a bass player in the band as well. And so I used to always do that. So I think I would have, it left my own devices, I think I would have become an electronic engineer. And then, and the funny thing is that when like computers came along, Commodore 64, BBC and stuff, I was really into it. So I actually did do a bit of programming when I was a kid, and then I kind of got bullied away from it. And now I'm surrounded by all these successful young people who've got great studios. I think my dad stole away this alternative path. So I found another way to kind of help games industry by being one of the people on the kind of so-called boring side of things like rights and revenue streams and stuff like that. Yeah.
What was your first job in the games industry then?
My first job in the games industry was with PlayStation, and as a lawyer, but the focus of it was actually helping them with their anti-piracy kind of program, and it just shows you how things have moved. So I was kind of there to help.
What was that, PS1 or PS2?
Yeah, it was like, I think PS2 was being launched, so it was like PS1, PS2, and it was about, kind of gold discs and, chipping of PlayStations and, working with rights organisations and the police and other publishers to kind of train like customs officers and people like that to spot fake CD-ROMs, and also to sometimes take part in prosecutions. Like I've given evidence in the Crown Court. It's really scary.
Really?
Because most of the time I was trained actually to be a barrister. That's my training. But it's easier when it's you doing the cross-examination. But when you're being cross-examined by a more senior, clever barrister in Birmingham Crown Court, I think it's quite interesting. So I started off doing that, and it was quite fun because I got to travel around to all these other places that my boss didn't want to go to, like the Middle East, where they used to weigh pirate games by weight instead of by number of titles. And actually it was a good thing. You were trying to protect the revenue streams of developers and publishers. So that was quite cool. That got me into working with the salespeople, seeing how people sell games in different countries, what works. I think I learned a lot very quickly about selling games in India, Middle East, Eastern Europe, and that was quite good. And then I got into working with the studios at PlayStation, working on a ton of different games, helping them with licensing the content, working with musicians and composers, working with
Whilst you were at PlayStation?
Yeah, I mean, I had some really good experiences. I worked with Andy Serkis, for example, when he was doing some of the direction on Heavenly Sword. It was a great game. And a few other people, a few other actors, a few other sportsmen, doing a lot of licensing work. So there was enough work for me to get on with and to do a bit of a crash course on how games are made, which is really, really interesting. And I think that's how I really got to meet quite a lot of different developers who started off in big studios, and a lot of them went off and formed other studios and publishers. And that's how I think I kind of got to know quite a few people in the industry.
And so how many years was that? Was that just one long stint?
It was a long time ago. It was in the noughties, so I think I started in, God, to give my wage, in 2000, and I stayed there for 9 years. It was a really fun time.
Really? You started in 2000? So that still feels recent to me.
Yeah, it is recent in some ways, and there's other people who are, they'd been in the games industry for 10 years by then. But yeah, for me, it was completely different. I'd gone from being qualified at the bar, being a kind of barrister, just doing lots of different bits and pieces, just a trainee barrister, and moved into the motor industry, working for a trade organisation. And I literally saw an ad in the newspaper for a lawyer for PlayStation.
Wow.
I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. And it wasn't something that was on my radar.
Amazing.
And it was just such a fluke, and it was such a fun time to be in the games industry. The noughties, people making money hand over glove, and it was a bit more egalitarian in terms of different size of publishers. You could make a game or a game that was fighting in that arena, it seems, for a lot less money than you are now, and there's only less than a handful of publishers who are really doing that. And there were a lot of parties, and the average age of PlayStation in Europe was like 28, and which at the time I thought was old, and a lot of people had a lot of fun. And
there's a lot of money rolling around.
But there was a lot of fun rolling around, and there was a lot of ideas, and it seemed that anything could happen, and it was very egalitarian, and people could come in with, not huge bundles of money and then make an impact, it seemed, in the games industry, and a lot of those people are still there, and a lot of those people are still very much friends of mine, and you're seeing them going from the first company, second company, third company, going from doing PC games or PlayStation 2 games, and now they're kind of like in esports and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting seeing where everyone's got to. And it was a great start. It was a really good way to meet a lot of different people, and I think that's kind of how we met as well.
Yeah. What was it that lured you to Take-Two then?
I really liked being at PlayStation. It was great education, great people. I was really interested, though, towards the end of the noughties, you saw, the iPhone came out. You saw the App Store. You saw the democratization of development and publishing. You didn't have to go to somebody who could, talk to a retailer or HMV or Tesco's and have a warehouse somewhere. You could do all that yourself. Obviously, there's a whole thing about discovery. So there were lots of people who were moving from development roles into setting up their own studios, right. and I was just kind of interested in kind of more the content side. I was doing a lot of that at PlayStation, but I was a little bit concerned that I was only doing it on the PlayStation platforms. I mean, they were all great platforms, but I was really interested in being exposed to an environment where I was working with kind of PC products and non-console, and seeing what's going on with mobile. And and I just thought 9 years was a really good time to be with one company, and I thought, let's see what's out there. I wasn't desperately searching, and but I got offered a role which was amazing with an amazing company, Take-Two, who've got, I think, arguably one of the best kind of like ranges of software in the games industry. And so I went there and I learned a lot. Very different culture from I was before. Amazing IP to work with, just phenomenal. And just again, really challenging, really good time.
So what was it because we met in 2012, wasn't it, when we did that little conference?
Yeah, but I think we'd kind of met. I think I'd come across you in work that you'd done with PlayStation before.
Really?
Yeah,
so we'd we'd met over email.
I think you'd done some, was it Flash stuff?
Yeah,
marketing.
But not with Sony or anything.
Maybe not.
No.
But I was aware of you for some reason.
Oh, hang on. When we did our ARG.
Yeah.
So were you doing XDev contracts?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we. So the game that FuturLab was set up to make, which we've yet to make. We pitched that in 2007.
Right.
And XDev, the people there, Phil Gaskell and John Rostron,
right,
were really impressed by the pitch, but they were like, no, we're not going to give you £4 million to make a game when all you've done is like Flash games. But they did sign us up to make an ARG for Heavy Rain.
Right.
And so you might have been involved in that contract.
Yeah, I did the first Heavy Rain contract. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I think it was.
But then we didn't actually meet until we'd put on a mini conference called, God, what was it called? I can't remember now.
Yeah,
Games Gone Global.
Yes.
And it was all about, because BlackRock, the Disney studio, had broken up and had created lots of black pebbles, lots of little companies. And it just seemed like really fertile ground where all these different companies were creating great products and they were all being sold globally.
Yes.
So suddenly Brighton was a real hotbed of, interesting stuff. And so we thought, let's put on a conference, which actually I started a website called Made in Brighton.
Yes.
To promote Brighton made games.
Yeah.
And the guys at Player Research were like, this should be a conference. So we did that. And I did a horrendous talk, and then we met in the bar afterwards.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, I used to work at PlayStation working on XDev contracts, and that was just music to my ears. I was like, oh my God, and now you're indie? Now you're sort of going on your own and able to work with small studios.
Yep.
That was a huge value proposition for us. So yeah, and then we've used you ever since.
Yeah, no, you were one of my first clients. So just explain to everyone. So I worked for Sony, worked for Take-Two, and then, as I said before, there were all these indie devs who were like, Albert, you've got this kind of like kind of contract, can you have a look at it? And I said, well, I'm kind of working for someone else. And then the volume of these kind of requests came quite a lot. And I thought, you know what? This now smells like a really good time to maybe just do this like full time. So I went for it. Marshall Media, you've got to have a bit of illustration. And I started in, I think it was, June 1st of June 2012 was the day the company started.
So the conference was...
Yeah, so the conference was more or less the first thing that I'd gone to.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I think you were one of my first contacts. I was introduced to you by somebody from another Brighton studio. We just got on straight away. My experience was very relevant to what you were doing. And I love the stuff that you were doing. I loved your really singular vision, and you've got a real kind of feel about what you do. We do these types of games, and they feel like this, they look like this. They've got these kind of like real kind of things that we always aim for. And it's just been, I've always been very proud to be able to go, these are my guys.
Oh, thank you.
So it was
likewise.
Yeah, so it was good, and it's been great. You've introduced me to tons of people. And, where I've been able to help, not just on the kind of contractual stuff, but just on the connections, or say, well, if you want to, even if it's a kind of like a technical problem or technical challenge, I can say, well, actually, I work, one of my clients is a networking, they do lots of kind of like a network kind of work. You can work with them, or I know some artists. I try and do that with all my clients, try and kind of join the dots, or even if it's, you need somebody who is a composer or films or whatever. I try and do it with all my clients. So, I think the whole games industry is about people kind of helping each other a bit more. I'm lucky I do work across slightly different industries as well. I do a little bit of film stuff, sometimes some music stuff, but I'm very careful because I'm not expert on the music rights, which can be very complicated. But, those industries are very different.
Does that extra sort of work in different industries just come as a result of people saying, I know a guy?
Yeah.
And it's just like that. You don't go after that.
No, completely. And you know what? It's a really good filter because I'm really fussy with my clients, and I'm very lucky to be in that position. But I don't want to kind of do loads of SEO and just have loads of random people, because I've had this before where you get big law firms saying, but I've got this client for you. Do you want to kind of like work with them? And they're like, why don't you want to work with them? And I find out because they're absolutely kind of bonkers. and they're like, George Lucas stole my idea. Oh, okay. I don't do disputes. I'm definitely not in the business of suing George Lucas. So I like the word of mouth thing, and it's always a great affirmation, because everyone gets imposter syndrome. And it's really good when, I can just say, well, actually, I've actually been doing this now for like 7 years, and nearly every single client has come to me because another client liked me. And you can build on it and build on it and build on it. And I'm actually getting to the stage now, the big theme for me for the last 18 months is clients being bought by losing clients because they've been bought by bigger companies. And so then they said, we're using their lawyers now. And so, okay, fair enough. But, that's good. It's kind of like having a child. You kind of, they turn 18 and they kind of walk out the door or whatever. They get a job and they only kind of talk about you at parties to slag you off, or, and come back when they're hungry. So, it's good. Some of my developers have gone off and into the wild. I don't think anyone's been bought by Tencent yet. Must be one of the few, but that's going to happen sooner or later because they seem to be buying all the industry. But yeah, so it's good to be in that position. I've been very lucky with the people that I've worked with, and as long as it's fun and I'm learning stuff, I'm going to continue to do it.
And so you started a company as well, like a dev company, right? Yeah.
So Marshall Media, it was a lot of fun. Loved it, and I was learning a lot more about the business of the problems that my clients encounter day to day. Marketing, the challenges of what discovery, negotiating with the platforms, and one of my clients had an idea about a game, which I kind of quite excited about, and I'm always thinking about commercial angles with games, and their idea was about a quiz game on mobile, and at PlayStation and Take-Two a bit, I got involved a lot with licensing and working with brands, right. And I said, the big challenge for a lot of any developer is to be discovered, and there's different ways of doing that. With PC and console, you can do that a lot by, you've got a lot of more traditional kind of publishers out there who can go through the channels and really help you. Mobile is a bit more Wild West, relying on getting features and stuff like that. But I thought there could be another way of working with partners by saying, look, you're a brand. Most of the time when you're working in merchandising or anything, you're licensing the visual, audio, or the elements of your brand. But what you could also do is that you could maybe work with somebody who's doing a quiz game, because then you're monetizing the stories, you're monetizing the data, you're monetizing the narratives and the characters in a different way, and you're doing it in a more interactive way. And people love quizzes, people love being challenged, and a great way to start a conversation online is to ask a question. So that's how we framed a bit of a business plan, whereby we would work with brands. They would give us their content and their visuals and their audiences, and we would turn that into something that was incredibly engaging, and be able to extend their audience through that. That was a spiel that I remember. That was a spiel, and it worked a couple of times. Slick. Yeah, I managed to get two quite big brands to jump on board without paying them massive advances. So it kind of worked for a while, and we did manage to build up quite a lot. But the funny thing is that in the world of mobile at the time, 700,000 downloads, which is a failure, and which is kind of really strange, because sometimes you see other people talking about games and they're talking about the numbers, and you're going, well, okay, we weren't charging them $40 a pop or anything, but we still got 700,000 people to engage. But it was really good for me, to go back to your original question too. I got in there early, initially to help them with, putting together a business plan, working with some of the content, raising money. We got some VC funding, not enough. That's something that I learnt, and and from there, we managed to build out quite a few different versions of the game across different things like sports, wildlife. Managed to get a wildlife license, amazing pics, and managed to talk to people in that whole world of mobile and talk to Apple and get a few features, and with Android, and talking to people on Amazon Prime. They had a little games kind of like platform there as well, and so that was really good, kind of having experience from not just being a lawyer, but actually getting your hands dirty. So when you talk to clients or potential clients, you can say, well, yeah, I remember the problems with talking to the platform holder, and if you want to talk to somebody, an Apple, maybe you could give him a call. And so I think that's given me a massive advantage as a lawyer. Yeah. And even doing crazy things like, getting my sister who works in film to help me do an advert, a trailer. And so we kind of got our equipment, didn't get a license. And kids, you should get a license when you do filming in the street. And we went to Carnaby Street, and we interviewed people and asked them questions about football, because we were doing a football quiz, and we got them to do some crazy stuff in Carnaby Street and video them really quickly and then just run off. And at the time I was thinking, yeah, but you're supposed to be a lawyer. Why are you hanging about in Carnaby Street approaching people? But that's the kind of crazy thing that you kind of do when you make games. And I see my clients do crazy things, and guerrilla marketing, and doing music, and like as you do, and stuff like that. And it's just the fun of being in the games industry, because that's what I remember being in the games industry is like. That people could throw a really crazy marketing plan, get it through their marketing director, get it through finance, have to talk to legal, and I'd say, you really want me to to approve this? And anything that I've done, I think, has been outdone by marketing people at Sony and or Take-Two, like the Duke Nukem marketing campaign, which I couldn't even. Yeah, I definitely can go there, but yeah. So it's good to be part of that, and I think it's infectious.
So part of the reason I've started this podcast is we're 16 years in now, and I've noticed that my job satisfaction has changed over time. I've gone from really, really caring about crafting a game and being, thumbs and all pies across the whole thing. Because I graduated fine art, which made me completely unemployable. So I taught myself Flash programming and set up FuturLab pretty much by accident, doing sort of corporate websites for high street clients like estate agents and things like that. So I had to learn things like graphic design, HTML, hand coding, right, JavaScript, typography, bit of video editing, basically everything. Yeah. And I've also been sort of a bedroom music producer. So I've got a broad sort of understanding of every discipline, apart from art, really. But I did fine art, so I should, at least I understand the principles, even though I can't draw. So yeah, the first few games we made, I was all over it. And I took great pride in being all over it. And as time's gone on and our studio's grown, I've got more job satisfaction from providing interesting projects for the rest of our staff to enjoy. But it's a challenge. Running a business is tough, especially in the games industry. But for some reason, we're still around 16 years later. And as I said, FuturLab started by accident. I never wanted to start a business. And I always told myself, we're doing this, but it's just a stepping stone. Because one day I'll go and work for a proper games company. I'm getting away with it for now. And yeah, it will just be a stepping stone. But, we seem to be doing okay, and we're 16 years in, and but I had a bit of a crisis where I'd sort of lost touch of the creative impulse towards the end of last year, and it had quite a tough period with one of our partners, and it just made me think, is it worth all of this stress? Because it is very stressful. Yeah. And so I thought, I need to talk to other people. Yeah. Other business owners, because they say it gets lonely at the top. Fortunately, I've got Kirsty. We've got each other. But yeah, I thought, you know, if I could get to talk to other business owners, long form, a deep chat, you know, the kind of chat that you would have on a Sunday afternoon over beers, you know, in basically the kind of chat that we have at Develop.
Yeah.
You know, when you're wearing crazy bright orange sunglasses or whatever it was.
Yes, got noticed.
I thought, yeah, let's do that, and that would be valuable for other people to listen to, probably.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do, and I think a lot of business owners do that naturally. A lot of the times when you go to events, you end up kind of doing that ish, but it's quite good to have. This is a great creative format where you're showing it and doing it in that kind of way. I mean, all I can say is for myself, I think I've had that before where you're kind of, am I doing this? Am I doing it properly? Is it, you know, am I providing something that's value? Can I shake it up a bit? I mean, I've been really lucky that I've been able to, because I'm doing it from a bit more of a kind of like, kind of more, let's say maybe boring start. So you're starting off looking at contracts,
right?
And then you kind of helping people with more of the kind of business side, and then you're saying, actually, I know quite a lot about kind of marketing or the basis of how you should at least start, the things that you should be trying to achieve. I'm not saying that I'm doing it perfectly, but at least I know what a marketing plan looks like now,
right.
And the actual bread and butter of doing it as an indie mobile developer. And so I've been able to talk a bit about that. And then I've been able to meet people who say, actually, Albert, I've got nothing to do with games, but you seem to be a tech kind of guy. I'm doing a music festival and conference in Bilbao, and I'd love to do a technology game stream. Could you get 4 speakers and organise stuff and organise a few events on the side, and we'll help you with all the logistics, and we'll do all the logistics for you, but get the people and maybe help me with how that stream's going to look. And I ended up doing that, and that was great. And it just gives you the kind of belief as well, and you meet other people and seeing their challenges. So I think that's a way, it's a bit like music, that you're laying down the beat, because I know you're a musical person, and then you can kind of riff off it and do lots of different things. And I think the one thing that because I've had a kind of thought about it as well, about what you're doing and what's important in this industry, in this type of industry. And I think collaboration is the answer. When you look at lots of different studios, there are a lot of studios who are changing at the moment, being bought. And the main theme that comes about, it's all about collaboration, that they meet someone, or they meet a publisher, or they meet another partner, or they do a game that means that they're suddenly working with people who work within narratives, creative narratives within film, or creative narratives within music, and that just takes them into a different, direction. You look at Andy Serkis, for example, as an actor, and then he was doing a lot more stuff to do with motion capture and stuff like that, and he set up a whole kind of studio that specialised in that, and that's sent him in a different direction. And maybe he should be the next person you interview. But I kind of think that it's about collaboration, and I think you can get a lot of variety and richness, and also share the load with collaboration. I think it's a thing that happens a lot with game designers and developers, and I deal with a lot of them, and I've had this conversation a lot of times. Because a lot of the time when I'm dealing with them, it's because they're trying to do their job and they're trying to negotiate a contract with a really heavy partner. So you're suddenly talking to maybe a big publisher or a platform holder, and suddenly you've got to deal with negotiating the commercials. You've got to start thinking about, because they're suddenly talking to you about having rights on the next, the kind of like sequels, and actually what about platform exclusivity? And then you're looking at, oh my God, I've got to think about what I'm doing the next 5 years. And they're saying, also, if you sell your company, we want to have a first option. I'm going, oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that. And then suddenly there's all these stresses, and
it's a wonder anything gets made, to be honest. The amount of overhead that you have to deal with.
So, and I always warn people that they should factor that into the deals that they do, that how flexible do you want a relationship? How much support do you want? And you might be dealing with a big, I call them £1 billion babies, that they can move your creativity and content and games a great distance, but you they're really heavy people to work with, and you're going to have to deal with a lot of people. And also, when you're popular, work really quickly with them because their attention, when their attention goes and there's something else, or they bought a new studio, or there's somebody in Japan for a company signs a successful game, suddenly you might not be the baby. But going back to what you said, I think that the pressure that people have when they're trying to deal with the different parts of the business, the creative side and the business side, means that they often have these moments where they're thinking, how can I deal with this? And I always say, well, it's about collaboration. 2, are you delegating enough?
We're just last year we hired our first producer, and we took him on a 6-month contract, unsure that we definitely needed the role.
Yeah,
we were like the second day, how could we have lived this long?
That's crazy.
Without a producer.
I never knew that you never had another production.
Kirsty so we shared duties, which meant that we couldn't do any of the biz dev properly.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do any oversight properly because we were just still hands-on production. And so now we've hired our second producer.
Great.
And things are moving a lot smoother.
I mean, don't feel bad because I work for big companies, and not the 2 that I've mentioned, but I've got to say that. But and I just thought, I mean, I'm lucky. My partner, she's so talented. She's a sculptor, but also her first job was being a project manager for a tech company. That did really well and everything. But she was a project manager, and she's done all the print stuff and knows about Scrum and stuff. And sometimes when, unfortunately, I'd go back home and vent because a project, in my view, hadn't been managed properly, and they're trying to solve it with legals, which is always a bad sign. It's too late. I also go, oh God, this is terrible. And she goes, oh, did they do this? I go, nope, did they do that? Yeah, and you realise that a lot of the time people in games want to get stuff done, but sometimes, well, all creatives want to get stuff done. And sometimes there's also an art to planning it, of which I know very little. I'm just talking about the oversight of it. But I know that people that seem to be more happy are people who've got these things in place and have got a team of people that they collaborate with in different ways.
Speaking about collaboration, I've just had one of the most thrilling times in my career working with a writer and an artist making a comic.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and
tell me more.
Well, we've got a new game we're working on that we're pitching at GDC, and in order to aid the pitch, we're making a comic to flesh out the world.
Yes.
Because we've never done that.
Right.
Even Velocity just grew out of. I mean, Velocity 1 grew out of Coconut Dodge.
Yeah.
We finished Coconut Dodge, had some code base.
I love Coconut Dodge.
It's a good game.
Well, you'd be annoyed if I said that in some ways it's my favourite game of yours.
It's the best-selling FuturLab game.
Great.
So you're not alone. Yeah. I really want to make a sequel to Coconut Dodge.
Vindicated.
Yeah, but we fell into Velocity because we had this code base, something moves left and right, and coconuts fall down. Okay. So we changed the thing that moves left and right into a spaceship that moves left and right. And instead of coconuts falling down, we had flying upwards into a space station.
Yeah.
And so we invented a story quickly around it, and then it did well, and so we did a sequel, and we're already locked on that path.
Yeah.
But we've never actually sat down and go, right, let's build a world.
By the way, never pitch Velocity again to publishers with it's a coconut game. I can just imagine the boardroom was like some big American publisher. We're buying coconuts for $5 million, it's, or whatever, or 50 million, whatever.
Maybe that's been our problem.
Yeah. Excuse a rubbish American accent. But yeah, I was just thinking, no, carry on. So you.
Yeah, so, and I think I've realised that as a studio, we sort of lack that bigger worldview, writing, creativity, world building.
Right.
And we met a writer through one of our members of staff who'd worked with him on a previous project, and we were halfway through Peaky Blinders, and we needed to rewrite on Peaky Blinders because Endemol were they'd previously approved something that we'd sent to them, and then they changed their mind because they'd seen the new season of Peaky Blinders, and they were like, these ideas that we approved of 3 months ago, we've got to change them because we've seen the script. So we suddenly had to do a rewrite, and we'd already been through quite a few revisions with our existing writer, and I just thought, she's going to get burnt out. She's not going to be able to see the wood for the tree. So we got a new guy in, and he blew my mind with his creativity, his vision, his world-building ability. and we just hit it off straight away. I met a develop, hit it off, showed him all of our projects, showed him the game that we launched FuturLab for. And yeah, we just had shorthand really quick. You know, within about 5 minutes, we were finishing each other's sentences. And so I showed him the new game the new prototype they were working on. And I've realised that my strength is in mechanics. You know, the moment to moment, what does it feel like? And how do you build on it?
Yeah.
But I'm not a writer. And so we started working with him to develop this world. And he's really big into comics.
Right.
And I've walked into, so Dave's Comics in Brighton, I've walked in there maybe 1,000 times, walked in and gone, I love it in here. There's something about this place that just oozes fun and interesting stuff. But I don't know where to start, so I then just do a 180 and walk back out again empty-handed. And I've done that so many times. And so I thought I need to get back into this, because we decided to make a comic, basically. And working with him as the writer and finding an artist to do the storyboarding has been such an alien process compared to games. It's this guy, Simon Meek, he's had to carry me through the process because I didn't understand it and we needed to have it ready for GDC. I'm panicking that stuff's not coming together quickly enough. He's like, no, you don't understand. This is the way it happens. So he would write the script, and my imagination of what someone does when they write a script for a comic is they, line by line, write out what happens.
Yes.
That's not what happens, apparently. He wrote a couple of really loose pages about what should be in each double-page spread. Right. And then it was up to the artist to storyboard it and figure out how to tell that story. Okay. Which, in hindsight, makes total sense. So then we'd get the art through, just black and whites, and art looks amazing. And I'm like, well, I can't read this. There's no story here. He's like, just wait until the lettering appears. I'm like, well, what do you mean wait until the letterer does their work? You know, because the letterer, three stages, right? There's the artist, there's the colorist, and the letterer. Right. And the writer, sorry. Yeah. And they all have their particular roles, and they all pretty much equal in their contribution, which I never really understood. And so I'd be saying to Simon, you know, I love the art, and I love the way this is going, the story, but I can't read these cells one to another, and I just got bogged down. And then the letterer did their thing, and it's all just coming out really nicely.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, but just that fact that you've got 4 people, and me just tagging along, who can produce a tangible artifact that is really engaging. And also comics, you still have to buy comics. You can't download comics. And so the thing with, you know, streaming digital media, video games or movies, is the downloaded streamed version is the exact same medium that you would have with buying the physical retail product. You know, it's a box that you open up, take a disc out, put it in your machine, and you interact with it digitally. Whereas with a comic, it's a physical piece of paper, right? Yeah. And that feels very different to reading it on a tablet or downloading it as a PDF. And so people are still buying comics. It's like one of the last bastions of, you know. And I just loved that process, and it just reinvigorated this creativity that it kind of gone off boil.
What's the main emotional difference, do you think, in creating with that process and creating, say, in the games process?
Can you bring the microphone a bit closer?
Yeah, sorry.
You can just do this to it.
Yeah, so what do you think is the main difference, kind of emotionally, between kind of that creative process that you've got for a chunk of doing a bit of a comic, and if there's a comparable kind of like chunk of creating
It's a good question. Speed, I suppose. Because the emotional sort of heart is there. You know, you're inspired to create something cool and interesting. Yeah. But the speed at which, and I just said that I was moaning about the speed at coming together, but it's vastly more, you know, pacey than making a video game. Yeah. So I guess it just reminded me of the early days of FuturLab with just 3 of us making Coconut Dodge and Velocity. And I think we've got to try and find a way as a studio to do work that keeps the lights on, and then silo projects, so incubate projects, so that we get to keep that small spirit alive. And that's happening now with this game. Okay. There's like 3 or 4 people that are just coming on and off it as needed, and it's super exciting.
Good. I think it's important to have that. And it's funny because there is a thing between games and comics, and people having that kind of relationship between the two. It makes me think of Rebellion, who kind of like got 2000 AD, got obviously very successful game studio, and now have even gone into TV and film. So is that going to be the next? That's
really interesting.
Is that going to be your next move? Are you going to be the next Rebellion?
I've got a call with them.
Yeah. All right. You'd like to say that?
Well, I mean, it's not going to come with it. It might not come of anything, but I reached out to them.
Mention it. Yeah. Talking about jousting. Are you going to get into jousting as well? Because I think that Jason.
They're into jousting.
Yeah, he's got horses, and he's got a whole suit of armour and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So he's got this massive kind of axe, which I think he just keeps in this office to intimidate people at negotiations. But
I've not met Jason. I met Chris.
No, they're both fun people. But yeah, no, that sounds really good with the whole kind of comic thing and the new game. So can you say any more about the new game? Or
it's got the same DNA as Velocity.
Right.
I think it's a return to form after doing the slightly scenic route, doing VR, which was great. Those VR games allowed us to grow our team and move from 2D into 3D. But I think when people see this new game, they'll think, oh, this feels like back in legit FuturLab territory.
So are we going to hear more about that at GDC?
Well, I think so. In the past, we've been very secretive about anything we're doing until we get a signature.
Yeah.
And then we talk about it.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's good. Well,
is it good, or is it fear of failure?
There are certain potential partners I know who really like to be able to trust people on the whole kind of secrecy thing. But then again, I think you build your trust in terms of that.
Yeah.
And I think also if you've got a strategy which is kind of clear, so you may be teasing it really early or having it out there really early, then I think that's fine, and I know it's part of that. So I've got another client who did some crazy big deals at the end of last year, and they put stuff out there, and they had stuff out there, but they did it in a way which was very planned, and also to build the buzz. It's a whole thing now about maybe the music industry, and people say, well, they're expecting you to have like 200,000 people looking at your video before they talk to you, kind of thing. So yeah, there are different approaches, and I think as long as you've got a strategy about what you're doing and why you're doing it, I think that's fine.
I think, this time I think we're going to put the comic out and see what people say about that, about the world building. And it's not long. It's 6 pages. So it's a pamphlet, really. It's not really a comic. But it looks great, and it's got some good ideas in there. And I think this time we'd be happy to show the prototype.
Right.
When we're a bit further along. But, we've never shown Velocity Supernova. Yeah. And this sort of blew up on Twitter a bit when I talked about the fact that we couldn't get it signed, despite, a couple of million downloads of Velocity 2X. And for the first time, we've actually got a marketing department now.
Right.
We've hired a full-time marketing exec and a mentor for her, who's ex-Rocksteady, did the Batman stuff. And he's amazing. And so he's come in and said, actually his first report after the first week, so he does 2 days a week and mentors her and then sets her the tasks for the week and does a report on the Tuesday. And after the first email, Kirsty was like, God, this is what we've been doing wrong, because it really is one leg of the tripod marketing, and we haven't had that. So now we're looking at everything to do with our business and how we position ourselves as a studio. And we've ditched the indie moniker. Yeah. We're no longer calling ourselves an indie studio. We're a boutique studio.
That's good.
Because we're mature, we've got health and safety policy and a fire escape plan, and and a team of 20 and really nice premises and the track record. So we're going to GDC presenting ourselves as a boutique studio making boutique games.
Yeah.
And he's been helping us shape that, and it's really exciting. So yeah, I feel like I've got my excitement back.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to other people that are going through similar processes who, or just got lessons to share.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there who have been through similar. So it's worth doing.
What else have we got here? So, and I'll cut this if it doesn't flow. Do you take advice?
I do take advice. I listen. Maybe I don't ask for it enough. And I think, so there are two parts of it. So I do feel that I need to maybe ask for it more. And there was a time when I was actively looking for a mentor, but I do lots of different things. And I kind of do it. I think I target people kind of in an unofficial way. And there's a certain type, as a lawyer, and the part of me that I help people business deals, I look at things transactionally. So what I always try to do is I always try to give somebody something, even when I'm asking them for something. And I'll give you an example of this. I know someone who's very senior, ran massive, probably the biggest kind of games company in the noughties. And I know that he loves looking at deals and solving them. It's like giving them a puzzle. So when I ask for his advice, you do it in a way where you say, there's this challenge that I've got. I thought maybe doing it this way, but it's really interesting because of X, Y, and Z. Have you come across a situation before, and do you have any ideas about it? And I knew that I was giving him something. I wasn't just saying, oh, there's this and this, life sucks because there's this. I was giving him a puzzle which I knew that he would quite like. Because there was,
sneaky.
Yeah. And he kind of said, yeah, okay, interesting. And then he said, let me get back to you. And then he got back to me next day, and he'd obviously thought about it overnight.
Yeah.
And he had all sorts of crazy ideas. And he was like, when I was working for this company, we had this situation, and I just got all this gold back from him. And I think you've always got to do that. You've always got to think, what can I offer them? And I've passed that advice on to my clients that, when they want somebody to help them, think about where that person is. Even if they're a billionaire and they're really, there's always something that they like, or there's always something that they like to get their head around, or turns them on in the way, challenges that they like. So kind of try to find a way of giving them that. So that's what I try to do. If I want help from somebody, I try to package it in that way. Sometimes it's a bit easy. Sometimes it's a bit like, I'm a lawyer. So people, they might just say they just want to throw something past me, and something, it might be quite sensitive, might be nothing to do with the games industry.
So that's when you're looking for advice, right? But if anyone comes out of the blue and just swoops in and gives you a tip, do you take it seriously, or do you sort of...
It depends. I'm a bit rude sometimes because I always say, there's always, I always get poor people give me financial advice. People who've never had successful relationships give me relationship advice. People who don't have kids telling me how to bring up mine. It's like me. I'm really humble with people who've got pets, because my parents were kind of very traditionally kind of African middle class and never really had that many pets. I never had any, even though I once was a kid. So someone's got, I don't know, I'm a bit like, maybe you should feed it or something. But I'm never really in there giving them loads of advice. So I'm kind of very... So I'm a bit cautious with some bloke in the pub saying, oh yeah, you should do like this, mate. But I think it's amazing when people do volunteer that. I think they're giving you something really precious. You know why? Because I get paid for advice. I get paid for advice.
Yep.
And so, you know, I value, and that was one of the first lessons that I had of my business, is that there are loads of people who just want to get free advice, and who will, you know, people come up to you in the pub, you know, I mean, I'll tell you a story, side story, but so I was going out with a previous girlfriend years and years ago, and we went to a big birthday party with one of her friends, and halfway through her partner, who got very drunk, told me that, in fact, they weren't having a happy relationship, they were really sad. He was really sad and he wanted to get out of it, and if they got divorced, you know, what would the situation be? And I said, look, mate, I am going to your partner's I'm going to my partner's, one of her best mates' birthday party. I am not going to advise that woman's partner about how to split up and how to screw her over after said split up. And so you kind of do realise that people always want to get that kind of free advice. Now, I'll try and be responsive, but you've got to, the thing that you're good at, you've got to value. So if you're an artist, you know, you'll have people always asking you, can you do this for free? Can you do that for free? And I always say to my clients, do not do anything for free, you know, and even if it's like a big company, don't do it for free. You know, they're big companies, let them pay for it.
I guess I'm just interested in trying to understand a bit more about who I am and why we've been able to, I mean, it's not just me, it's Kirsty as well, but why we've been able to stay in business for so long.
Yeah.
When a lot of companies, particularly in the last few years, have just gone kaput. And I wonder if it's a combination of being able to seek out advice and actually listen when people give you advice just out of the blue, or whether that's just me.
I think you're very approachable. I mean, I've worked with you now for
since 2012.
Yeah, 2012, so 8 years. Yeah. So I think, and I hear what people say about you, and I think, one, it's the quality of your work. whether it works or not commercially or whatever, most times it has done. I think there's a quality and you articulate. One thing that I'm really impressed by you is that you really articulate your values and in terms of what your production values are. And, you know, you could say, right, this is what I'm about the game mechanics, and it does this, this, and this, and you're really good at that. And I think part of that training was because before you got into games, you were helping clients with a bit of marketing
that's true.
And stuff. And I think that is really, really important. And I think that's a common thing that I see with my clients that do well. They articulate who they are, you know, very clearly. And I think it makes it very easy for people to have conversations with you and to know what you're about.
And good to know.
And it's a good filter, because you know what? You might have people who, if you weren't so articulate, would take up your time and maybe have a lot of money or this or that, but not a good fit. But because you articulate, it's self-filtering. And it's like me saying, it's like me saying I only do word of mouth, and that self-filters. Yeah. Occasionally I'll go out and I'll go to events. So I think that has helped you. Another thing is, I think a little bit of it is luck, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I'm not saying in
I'm
not saying that in any kind of, you know, wrong way, but I just think, but sometimes I think you've got to put yourself in the place to have luck, and you've talked to the smart people, you've put yourself in the right places, you've presented. I think you do learn. I think you're both hungry for to see what's out there and to take a risk and take a look at opportunities. So like with the VR thing, for example, you said, look, let's have a look at this. Let's see what might make sense, what might not. And also you were quite good at pivoting away from that quite quickly and not kind of, I don't know, maybe you did bet the house on it, but being in a position where you could pivot away from that and look for other stuff.
That was luck. Pure luck.
Yeah, so, because I've seen lots of talented people like kind of go off and fail. In fact, there was something really silly today that I saw on Facebook, and it's quite cheesy. It's about Michael Jordan, great basketball player, and it's the first time I've actually printed something out, and because I want to kind of take it home and have my kids have it on the wall. And it says something like, I've missed 3,000 shots, I've lost 200 and something games, and it's something else that he's done wrong. And he says, I've missed 26 shots where that would have been the winning shot for the game.
Right.
And you said, it's only because of these losses that I've become such a successful person.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that, if you probably added up all the things that you got wrong or you lost or, whatever, actually, because, I've been through some of the tough times with you or, some of the tough negotiations you've had to have or some of the times when you've had a partner who's not been reliable and you...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Flashback.
And so, you sometimes forget about that. What's it called? Survivalist bias?
Yeah.
So it's almost like the survivalist bias is against yourself, not other people who see the survivors.
Yeah.
You kind of, because you're still breathing, you're thinking, oh, yeah, the air's always been pure up here. And
I'll tell you what, I've never been more afraid.
Really?
I'm starting to get into my stride now, but when we got this studio and we rose to 20 people, I was terrified, genuinely, because got to feed the beast.
Yeah.
And, there aren't many studios around our size or started when we started. And so, part of this podcast is to just figure out how to stay in business another 10 years.
Yeah.
I want to talk to smart people who, have been around a bit and have learnt some lessons.
I mean, I asked you, I remember when I walked into the studio, because it's a beautiful studio, by the way, people in Brighton, you should come down because they're very friendly. But I said, this beautiful studio, it's not in Soho, but it's in quite a nice part of Brighton and Hove. And the first thing I said was, this is really good. This is you. This feels like you.
That's all Kirsty.
Yeah, it is. Well done, Kirsty.
She's done an amazing job.
Yeah, she has. And but I was like, what's your burn rate?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I've been there now because I had that one myself of looking at burn rate and how to do things and shall we keep him on as an employee a bit longer because if we do that then he'll be able to get a mortgage and all that kind of stuff. And
do you want to just explain burn rate for anyone that's listening that doesn't know what that means?
It just means how much do you need to spend to keep your studio going every month.
Yeah.
And then
it's a frightening number.
It's a frightening number. And then sometimes when you're talking to publishers or people who are making a game with you, they'll distill that down to what's called a man-month rate. Yeah. So, if you've got, so how much does it cost to keep one person working on the game for a month? So you might have 5 people working on the game for 12 months. If it's like a small kind of game. And then you've got to distill that to a man-month rate. And then there's figures that get bandied around. And it's really, really important that you keep an eye on that and cash flow and all those boring things. And it is stress. And I had that when I started, even just me. I mean, I've been a coward. I haven't employed anyone. I just rely on me, Albert Marshall, and I quite like that at the moment. And I collaborate.
But you did Quiztics, right?
Yeah, I did Quiztics, and we had a team, and that was good. But then I had those the pressures as well. And
did it change you? Do you think? Did it change you at all?
Yeah, it did. It put me under a lot of mental, psychological pressure, more than I think I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it made me respect. Yeah, it made me respect a lot of my clients a lot more, and it gave me a bit of humility, and it made me a bit vulnerable. Right. Because lawyers like being smart asses, and and I thought, okay, this doesn't feel like success, but there was massive highs and lows, and I think that there's a big question about mental health in the games industry, and I think a lot of people are talking about it at the moment with a lot of stuff that's going on in the news, and it made me a bit more. I empathised a bit more with my clients, and made me ask a question. So now I'd say, "Are you okay? Are you really okay?" Yeah. And who are you talking to? And I think it really helps talking to people in industry. And it was very difficult for me. And I'm being very honest here as a lawyer, because as a lawyer, people want to go to you as a safe person, and a lot of lawyers are kind of like, I know everything. You can go up to some lawyers and say, so how do you build this nuclear? Kind of like jet engine, and they'll go, well, I think it'll probably be this, because you have to be. Your role is to know things and to always be right. Yeah. But when I became that person, kind of running a studio and running a games company, I had to be vulnerable, because there were times when it was like, well, yeah, we haven't had that many downloads this month, and actually kind of really wondering how long we can kind of succeed in this kind of with the burn rate that we have, and how to balance it out. I need to get a deal done by the end of this month, no, by the end of this week, kind of stuff. And you had to be a bit vulnerable. And sometimes I was meeting people in conferences, and in my older role, I'd be like, yeah, I'm the clever kind of lawyer guy. Maybe you come to me for advice, but I was actually going, you know what, we're in this. We've got this big challenge. I'm not sure we're going to get through it. And, how did you get through similar challenges? So that's how I did it. I kind of went to a lot of events and talked to people that I knew in the industry. And sometimes I thought maybe I spent a bit of I built up some kind of capital as Albert Marshall was this lawyer at Sony, but now he's just some bum who's trying to make a mobile game. And so, but you know what? The great thing about it, I really enjoyed kind of. When you
talk about that capital, are you saying that it just ran out immediately as soon as you were asking questions about running a studio? Because it was a different role.
I think it might be all in my head, and these people didn't give two hoots about it. But a lot of people in advisory roles, your whole kind of capital is built upon you having this very confident demeanour. I'm very good at this narrow thing, and once you start to show people that actually you advise on games, but you were involved in that game, that didn't do great, or then it's kind of taken away from that whole kind of shininess. But I advised. I worked on Red Dead Redemption. Doesn't mean that I built the game. So me having a credit doesn't mean that I'm. Some people do that. They associate the greatness of other people's work, and we all like doing that. But I think it made me a better advisor, and I can advise on more commercial things. And being able to advise in a very technical level about the legals or the contracts, also you've got to understand the risks, and you've also got to understand the opportunities, and you've also got to understand why that clause about having a kill fee, why it matters, and being able to anticipate things as well. So I think that really matters. And actually, some of the best people that I've negotiated with aren't lawyers; they're just people who really understand their business deeply. And so I think that it helped in that way, making me kind of a bit more aware of the business side. And because this industry changes so quickly, I think that my instincts in 2009 that I needed to go from being with a console kind of platform to a publisher, and then my instincts in 2012, I said, no, actually, you need to be able to advise any company that you want, whether that's technology or creative, and be able to look at opportunities and jump in them and gain experience. I think that's really helped me, because otherwise I'd still be the same guy advising on kind of console platform kind of issues exclusively, years ago. So I think we all need to be kind of keep up to date, keep flexible.
It's the writing on the wall, seeing that. I think, part of the reason we've lasted this long is, for some reason, my mind is always in the future. I get bored in the present often. And so writing on the wall is really clear to me. And so that certainly happened with Flash. Flash was great. Flash was everywhere. And then Steve Jobs said, we're not going to support Flash ever.
Did you ever go to Flash on the Beach?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a great conference. Those were golden days, because you could, I came straight out of university, taught myself a little bit of Flash programming, and could charge £500 a day. It was nuts.
Great.
That doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But as soon as Steve Jobs said, we're never going to support Flash, get over it. You need to move on. That was it. We had to switch. Unfortunately, PlayStation had brought their sort of the walls down. What's the word? Forgot the word now.
Just the development publishing?
Yeah, it's the democratization with Unity and bringing the barriers to entry. That was the phrase I'm looking for. We could get onto PlayStation Minis. It was very, very lucky. Seeing the writing on the wall and being able to pivot quickly, I think, is a key skill. But and you were talking about, the pressure that you got put under. Do you feel like you've always been a resilient person, or did you have to build that resilience being a business owner?
I think...
is it chicken or the egg?
I think resilience is definitely built, because I remember the first couple of months of setting up my own business, the consultancy even, and I had an initial thing where the work kind of I had it even before I'd even left my old role, and that's fine. And then I had a couple of months, and I remember it because it was summer, and I think there was some sporting event, like Olympics or something, 2012, yeah. And for some reason that month, I think it was July, I had no work, I had very little work. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to wear my tracky bottoms and just watch sports and chill out with, I think, did I have it was 2012. So yeah, I had 2 small kids then. So yeah, and I just chilled out with them. But there were some times in that month when I couldn't sleep, and I've never had problems with my sleep ever in my life because I was thinking, shit, yeah, am I going to be able to pay everything this month in terms of the bills? And then after a while, you just get used to the highs and the lows, or in terms of income, and then you get used to FuturLab saying, oh, but yeah, there's something that we really need, but for tomorrow. And
sorry.
and then the people that you start off with, they come back and go, well, yeah, FuturLab, they'll come back to me every couple of whatever months, and my other guys will come back, and then these people will come in, and then you kind of build that in, and you kind of work out that actually, as you go on and as you get more referrals, and you have more confidence that people will come to you, because people just say, developers talk to each other, and companies that I work for talk to each other, and so the work comes in. So the resilience is a lot of things. I had a little bit of savings, and so there's just the kind of, it's the money there kind of resilience. It's being the street wise in terms of how you spend your money. It's being kind of really single-minded in terms of working out what you're going to do, how you're going to do, how you're going to sell yourself, what you're going to go for. So what I did when I set up Marshall Media is that I said to my missus, I said, look, I need 4 days. I went to Valencia. I went to a resort called Gandia in Spain.
Nice.
I went for 4 days. I went by myself. Right. I had a piece of paper and a pen. And I sat down and wrote kind of like, business plan more or less. Right. What I was going to do, how I was going to do it, who was I going to target, what could I do, or what couldn't I do, what would I just say no to.
And this was back in 2012?
Yeah, and that was giving me more time to focus. And I think it's really important. One of the big things also is the last 12 months, I said no to more things and said yes to things. But that's allowed me to focus and do things which I'm more comfortable in. So, yes, as a lawyer, I was taught, especially as a barrister, that you're supposed to be able to turn your hand to everything. But what I've realised is just, do what you're good at. Be like David Beckham. Yeah. Keep those crosses coming.
Triple down on what you're good at.
Yeah. So just, no, don't do that. If you want to, and I will send loads of work to big law firms. They can do disputes. They can do big corporate matters. They can do, stuff like that. So I've developed it into a tagline. I will do for you what I do at the best price for you to the best of my ability, and the things that I can do for you, which I think I'm the best person. And if I can't do that, I will find you the best alternative at the best price. And I'll manage that for you as well if needed. And I think people have got confidence. We're like, oh my God, this guy's not just trying to grab as much money from me straight away. He's just really confident. Like, no, actually, go to these guys. But if you want to come back to me for X, that integrity is really important. It might cost you a bit of money, and sometimes it's really hard when you see a couple of £1,000 staring you in the eyes to get you through that month. But you just hand it over to someone else. But that integrity is going to be really important, pay dividends. Yeah. And I think you guys have got integrity. And it sounds kind of a thing that somebody says when they've made it and they're okay, but it actually really does work.
So the thing I've been interested in building is creative capital.
Right.
And I'm much more interested in creative capital than I am financial capital, because, you can spend money, but creative capital just builds and builds and builds and builds.
Yeah.
Like Stephen Fry is my example. That man can do whatever he wants because he's built so much creative capital. He can pick a project and people will go, yep, let's do that. I want to be that company, But that means you can't put a foot wrong, because you can lose that creative capital if you sell out just a tiny bit.
Do you think that's right?
It certainly feels. Maybe I was about
to say Nicolas Cage.
Just in my head. Yeah.
For acting, so but yeah, I mean.
Well, there's this phrase: you're only as good as your last game. Right.
Do you feel that really applies?
I think, well, maybe not. Maybe it's in my head.
Okay, let's do a game of naming. No, we can't do that because then you're shitting on people.
No, we can. We can do it by FuturLab games.
Yeah, but let's do a game of a company who they've had a good game, then they've had a bad game. That almost killed them, then they've had a good game.
True. There's lots of companies like that.
Yeah, there's probably loads of companies like that. Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, so before you were saying that you're only as good as your last game, and I think it's good to put yourself under some creative pressure, but I also think that a lot of people say that you shouldn't be like that too much. So you shouldn't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got the kind of creative integrity, and I see it with people like you, I see it with my sister who's doing documentaries, and I just remember the documentary that she did was about deaf cults, deaf cult in California. And I remember when she told me that she was going to go and spend some time with this deaf cult in California, and I was like, well, that's not very commercial. You were working on Love Actually before then, and that was quite a good film, and now you're going to do this deaf cult stuff in California. I mean, is it safe? What about the wacko thing? But it all worked out for her, and she's got an integrity to what she does and single-mindedness like you guys are. And so those are the things that I find in common. So I do it on my kind of anecdotal, kind of statistical kind of thing that, yes, you can be flexible, but the people that I've worked with that are a bit too much, just trying to chase the dollar, basically, don't really last. And the people who've got some kind of real kind of articulated vision about what they're doing, I think that's really kind of important. And it's paying dividends. I mean, the thing that I'm excited about in terms of content is that, and it's not to do with games, but in the film industry, there's this amazing energy and resource that has been started because of all the streaming stuff.
Right.
So, a lot of my friends are on their arse, were just about to go off of, from actors to writers to film directors to producers. This money and energy, commissioning energy that's going into
Golden
streaming
days.
is like, it's the best time. Every time I meet anyone who's in the industry, I just said, look, have a coffee, don't go to sleep. These are your days. I don't know how long they're going to last. And I think the games industry, there's a lot going on. There's a bit of energy, and I don't know how widespread it is, but there is at certain levels, especially with some of my clients, there are a lot of people that are being asked to do deals left, right, and centre. People want to invest in games companies, not all huge ones as well. And the great thing is that you think those big deals have got nothing to do with you, but you've got to remember that those, the Tencents are buying the mini clips, who are investing in other companies, who are investing in other companies, and it can be at any level, because even if it means that somebody had a mid-ranging company and they got paid off, and they're just one person, that person's a bit like, what? I know loads of people that I used to hang around with in pubs, and I'm going to invest in free projects and give 20 grand each, just so that somebody can put their idea into something which they can then pitch, and that's valuable. And there are loads of people walking around in the games industry who are paying back.
This is my problem in particular, but our problem as a studio is that I don't do any networking really. We go to GDC once a year, and we know the people we know, and I'm just not that sort of gregarious extrovert type. So I think that's a problem. But what I'm good at is recognising someone who I think will value working with us, and then reaching out to them with a really concise email. And quite often they'll just go, okay, this sounds good. Yeah, let's do it.
And to get the high value people, that sounds terrible, but people that are busy, that's the kind of approach that they'll respond to. I do a bit of both. And I do the kind of gregarious thing because I'm good at it, and I enjoy it. Yeah. And that's different, but I think both things are valid. I think there is a kind of maybe a medium meeting point where there are people who are trying to set up platforms whereby people can meet people at that level who are busy but are in an industry, and there are events around that. There are people trying to do things Like Tony Pierce does the Centurion stuff. Some people like it, some people, that's not their thing.
Not having that.
It's a monthly thing in London, in the Centurions Club.
Right.
Century Club, where he does a kind of a networking thing. It's a mixture of old games people and some other industries as well.
You need to get up there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive, as I always say, I was talking to some other people, I was saying that there's a massive, kind of hub now in Brighton of games companies. But yeah,
do you know what? Every time we go to meet people that have got a bit of cash, investors.
Yeah.
For some reason, we can't sell this idea that we're just making cool shit because it's really hard. I mean, that's all we really care about. And so, we've had quite a few mentors over the years.
Yeah.
And it's always about the money. It's always about, you need to do this, this, and this so you can get the money. And then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I've just got this feeling, and it's just driven us, it's steered us this far, that, if we'd done free-to-play mobile when it was the right time to do it, 2010 or whatever it was, we would have made a shitload of money, and then we would have continued making shitloads of money, and we'd have made decisions based on how we're going to increase our revenue each year.
Because then you owe people, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want that sort of life. I want to be led by the creative heart,
Yeah.
And that's why I believe in building creative capital, because I think that's the way to actually survive long term and do the projects that excite you.
Yeah.
And you have staff retention because all of the people work here, they get to work on projects they believe in. It's quality work, meaningful work.
Yeah. I think there's not a platform for that. I think you're right. I don't think there is a platform for that type of investment. I think
because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I don't know.
Because it's hit driven, right?
Okay, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you another story. My sister, who I love and I mention all the time, she called me up and it was about 3:00 in the morning or something ridiculous, UK time, because she had gone out to California to make a Death Cult movie. And she was talking to some guy in a bar, and he loved her idea, and he wanted to just help her along a bit, and she needed a little bit of money to tie up a bit of filming costs while she was out there. She'd got some funding, and so he wanted to put in about $5,000, but like there and then, more or less.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, I don't know, I just want some bit of paper or something. Have you got a lawyer just to even just tie things over? And so in the end, I managed to draft something by text message that basically said, yeah, Sheila's working on this thing and you're going to give 5K and you're going to commit to it, and we're going to do a one-pager tomorrow when Albert's forgiven his sister for waking him up at 3:00 in the morning. And that did happen. And so she did get the funding. And this is the difference. There are a couple of differences. Film industry's been going for a long time.
Right.
People they've seen their grannies and the uncles and friends. Yeah, I invested in this film called Star Wars and no one believed in it. And then, so a lot of that has happened. And there is a story of winners that doesn't seem controversial. And the way that I say it is this, is that in the 90s, let me get this right, in the 80s or 90s, in the 80s, a lot of utilities in the UK were freed up. So my parents bought British Gas shares and made 100 quid. Great. At the same time, when I go to GDC, sometimes I go to bars and, you're talking to people. It might be apocryphal tales, but there's always another guy like, back in the 80s or 90s, my brother was a security guard and there was a company called Dell. And, everybody was in together and they got some shares. And, that pays for like everything. In fact, he invests in other, tech companies after that. So there are people that have made big money reliably from tech and entertainment in the US and in industry-wise, say film, because there's a real disparity, I think, because I work with these people, and the difference is that when I work with somebody who's kind of doing a documentary or doing a narrative thing in film, they're able to be very single-minded but still find a market for their film that might not seem that commercial, and get funding for it. One, because people believe in it, and there's more people So there are more lovies, say in London, who will do a bit of kind of film investment,
right?
And it'll just
it's not there in games, you think?
Yeah, not in the same way, and it's not as big, and we've been a bit slow. So the whole thing's about tax relief, and that was a film model really, and that's so set up, and it got abused a bit by the film industry, to be fair, where people knew it was going to be loss making and still making a profit, etc. And I feel that games is kind of catching up, and I think people are looking at the games industry a bit. And if you look at the IPOs and you look at Team 17, which is amazing, by the way, because they're investing in, and they're trying to keep the investment in UK studios. I think that we're nearly there, but I don't think we're there yet. And that is purely anecdotal, but just like my clients, people that I work with, it just seems to be a different path on people, especially we're talking about indie developers, indie filmmakers. They can go off and they can sell their international rights. Then they can go off and they can sell, they can sell for streaming. They can chop these up in different ways and monetize them in different ways. And I think explaining that games might have that same pathway. So you're going to say, actually, I'm going to sell you the console rights or PC, or international, not the same thing, but maybe streaming might end up being something like that, where you don't have to give all your rights. So maybe you can do a deal with a console maker, but you can reserve the streaming rights. And I always say to people, just in case, reserve the merchandise rights, because you never know. You might have something which just takes off. Somebody in Japan does a crazy T-shirt with one of your characters on it, and it just goes ape. Just reserve those rights. And remember that all the things that we're talking about now, back in the day in early noughties, used to be called ancillary rights. Anything online or to do with merchandise, they just said, all this stuff that's not the plastic that we're putting in warehouses, let's just call that ancillary rights and let Albert play with it. But now that's the games business now, all that stuff. So, I think the games, I think at the level that we're talking about, and in the kind of psychological level also, whereas people want to be focused on creating the art and having a kind of like a critical mass of people who understand that and want to support it, but also see a reasonable way of recovering that and maybe having some upside. I think that needs to be worked on. I don't think we're there yet in the way that I see, and on an anecdotal basis, I see in other industries. So let's see what happens.
It does feel like it's a golden age for TV and film with Netflix. Yeah. Because they need content. And they've got, how many hundreds of millions of subscribers. Yeah. And it seems less important to need to have products that are mass market, because you've got all these niches that you need to serve. And I think bring on streaming, bring on game streaming. Yeah. I think people that are sort of looking at Stadia and going, well, I don't believe in that. It seems inevitable.
I really want it to work, because you never know what's going to work. So a great example is Netflix. When they went out, people said, of course, Stranger Things worked, and of course this worked. But guess what? They started investing in documentaries, and people love those documentaries. So now there's like a great market in funding documentaries. So I can't wait for the same thing to happen in games, where you've got these indie games, and then maybe streaming does take off, and maybe it increases the market, because guess what? I've got a shitty phone in somewhere, but I can play this game and have access to it, and have it fed to me in a platform that's really good at marketing to me as well, and feeding into what my needs are. And so but what I said, I think it can change very quickly. In the same way that the whole streaming seems to be very quick, and now you've got
it crept and crept and crept.
Yeah. It crept a bit.
And then boom, suddenly you've got Stranger Things.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping, and I think that the same thing will happen, and the thing is to be positioned.
Have you tried Stadia?
No, I haven't tried it, and that's a bit slow of me. Though I did try it on live years ago, when Bruce Grove was like this major salesperson for it, and he was pitching to all the studios and stuff. And I looked at it and thought, they've got so many great things here, which everyone is doing now, and they thought about it in 2010 or whatever. So for me, when it works, it will just be a no-brainer, and I can't wait for it to work. And I'm so used to the whole subscription thing now. And
it's getting slightly annoying though, isn't it? Because now you've got BritBox, and then you've got Disney Plus, and you've got whoever else is going to come out, you're going to need a TV just to scan through.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be like you're going through the channels, which are all the subscriptions you got, but you're paying for every single one of them individually.
And they're all going to have that killer thing that you want.
I know.
Like mine at the moment is Sea of Thieves, but
right.
I haven't got Xbox, so I'm kind of like...
I'm holding out on Disney. I'm tempted, but...
What's the one that's, I can guess, but what's on it?
Well, Mandalorian I'm interested in.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing that they're doing it's kind of working. You know, some people saying, yeah, but maybe because of the whole Netflix BBC debate, that they're doing it on a loss-making basis at the moment. And so what happens in the long run with that? But I think the major thing is loss-making or not, they've identified a market. So it's just, and people aren't going to stop wanting to stream stuff, whatever, you know, so it's just finding the pain point, finding the point where people...
It's a shame it's still loss leading after these years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's my understanding, and I know there's a lot of investment. But you know, they're generating a huge amount of revenue now, so maybe they'll get to that stage. Maybe it'll be like Facebook. Facebook makes money. But yeah.
So what's next for you?
So what's next for me? So it's quite funny because I saw one of your. Yeah, I try to habitually kind of take some time out and say, right, what do I want to do next 5-10 years? And I haven't done that because other things have happened. I've had a baby daughter last 6 months. Thank you, Erin. And so I need to do that as well. I mean, at the moment, I really love working with my clients. I want my clients to grow and me to grow with them. Because of all the stuff that's happening with streaming, I'm kind of doing a little bit more work with some kind of film and TV type production companies, and that's really interesting. And I've always had that because I've got my sister and stuff. And so I'm going to try and grow that. One thing that I really wanted to do is I wanted to see what role that I could do in bringing some of these different kind of industries together. So I've got an idea in my head about things. So I've got quite a few friends who work in the music industry, know all about it. And I'd like to see what I did a few years ago, which is help do this kind of tech track for this music industry thing. So I'd love to kind of get involved in that.
Tech track, sorry.
So, you know, just get a few speakers who from the games industry to speak at this music kind of conference and festival. So I want to explore that a bit. I still got a bit of an itch about, I quite liked being involved with a games company, and I needed some space away from that after I got burnt out trying to do everything, you know, down to actually kind of like, you know, doing, I call it art direction, because I was saying, yeah, we should have this character and that character and that character as characters which you have filling seats in this quiz game. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to put art direction on my CV. So doing everything, but now I feel that I kind of feel that I learned stuff, and I want to play with it a bit. So future direction is thinking about kind of being involved in that kind of project, not getting in, being silly and trying to be the kind of head of marketing and all that stuff, but getting involved a little bit there, or maybe in a deeper role with one or two of my clients. I've been asked to be involved with one or two of my clients a bit deeper. So I'll look at that. That's one thing. Just keep on my focus on what I'm doing, and at the moment, because I still love that, and just balancing quality time with my family. Health. I've realised health is really important as I'm getting older, so trying to do regular exercise.
What are you doing?
So, because the weather's been so shitty, I've just been doing regular stuff in the gym. And the thing about anyone who's got kids now, they realise that you all watch YouTube, and there's all these influencers that are into health and fitness and stuff. So there's this whole thing about loads of kids are into boxing at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, loads of kids are really into boxing. And I've got a 12-year-old, and he's really into boxing. At first I was like, oh no, you know, but he loves it. And I've got him a membership of my gym as well, so we go to the gym together. And I remember going, to gym once with him and his younger brother who's 8, and they're quite cute together. They're kind of spotting each other and stuff like that. And some woman came over and said, "Oh no, you should put them on Instagram. They're so good." I said, "I'm not putting my kids on Instagram." so gym's important just because it's easy. I can go around the corner, whether I can do my little routine, a bit of cardio, 2K on the rolling machine, bit of weights, and then do row machine, bit more weights, cross trainer, a warm down, bit of a swim. And
nice.
Yeah, so there's that. I'm aiming to do, and I'm going to put it out there. I'm aiming. So I do 2K.
Here comes the marathon.
Yeah, no. See, mine's not sure. So I do 2K quite easily, maybe 3K as a warm up. Right. So my whole thing is that I'm going to do 1 or 2 5K runs just to get me, and because I'm quite heavily built, it's all concrete. So I'm gonna. The 5K is my thing, and that's going to be a big achievement for me. So I want to hit that. We've got tennis courts around the corner. In the summer when it's good, I'm going to try and get into tennis. And I don't think I mentioned, but I went out and I worked remotely from the south of France for about a year and a bit. Came back in July, and they had a swimming pool. They had a communal pool for the flats that I was in, and we were 10 minutes from the beach. So I think I'm still a crappy swimmer, but I'm a lot better crappy swimmer. And I think it's a really good way of doing exercise and concentrating on your breathing and focusing. And even if you've got a slight niggle, you don't have to stop doing any exercise. You can kind of still swim and stuff. So I want to improve my swimming. So those are my goals, and to get Dreams, my advert for Media Molecule, and to start creating on that.
Yeah. Dreams is amazing. We had a sort of private demo about this time last year. That might have been 2 years ago now. It was about 4 hours. We didn't get to hold the controller in 4 hours because they were just walking us through the features, and we were just mind blown. Right. It shook us at how innovative and smart it was. I just thought, this is the kind of thing that Adobe should be making. Right. It's the equivalent of Photoshop for video games. Right. So I really hope it does amazingly well. That's really good.
No one's explained it like that. Maybe they have, but no one's explained it like that. I get it now straight away. So
yeah. I came away from their office thinking, there's Elon Musk and there's Media Molecule, and those are the two people that are doing important things on the planet.
Right. You sold it. I'm gonna get it on the way back home. I'd say you sold it completely. Marketing's your strong point. Forget games.
Those are just my honest thoughts.
Yeah, they'd love to hear that. That's something that I'm really interested in. And that's what I love about the games industry. There's always something that comes in that goes, that's really important. That's
it's so really important. Cool. Yeah. When it was in early access, you could just see the quality of the ideas that were coming out. And when we met them, they said what this tool does. So they gave the example of, you walk along the beachfront and you've got an artist that does sort of caricatures. Yes. And then you've got a 3D graphics CGI expert who works on Spider-Man movies, whatever. They both have this artistic ability, and the only thing that really separates them is their technical ability in the tools they use. And what Dreams does is it squashes that, brings people closer together. So if you've got a creative idea, the tool's there for you to use. What comes out is people's taste and their preferences. And you just see it. You trawl through the Dreams, and there's just tons of really interesting stuff because the tool's so easy to use. Yeah. I think it's just so important, and I hope they do well. But I don't know. I've got no idea how they could possibly top it. I half expected them to go, right, we've been 9 years on this. Is out, we're closing the studio because we can't top it. We're going to go and do other things. That doesn't sound like them.
Yeah, well, Rockstar produced Grand Theft Auto. So I've done that 20 years ago now. I don't know. But they've kept on going. I suppose they'll just build bigger, and
I expect they're going to be supporting it for a long time, building new stuff.
Yeah. And maybe some collaborations with some interesting people.
Yeah. Look forward to that. So I think how are we doing for time?
Must be loads.
It's 8:20. Been at this an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anything you want to talk about? You want to shout out? Marshall Media. Do you need any more clients?
Yeah, anybody's doing interesting work, working with interesting people, have a chat with me, Albert at marshallmedia.biz, or you'll probably see me at Resd or some other games conference. I'm going to be at GDC, notwithstanding various viruses and stuff. And it's quite funny because somebody on Twitter said, GDC might not happen. And I said, shut up, we want it to happen. And then I talked to my ex-business partner, who's actually quite amazing. And he just said, he turned it around completely and said, actually it'd be quite cool if it doesn't happen, because then loads of people will just go there anyway, and it will become all about the kind of the side stuff, and we'll just like have all these creative meetings and kind of stuff just happening. And I was like, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's what, and for me, that's what games industry is about. It's about people just kind of building good stuff, even when it's not obvious that you can build good stuff. So I'm going to be at GDC. So
have you ever been to a game jam?
Yes, I've done. So Sony went through this amazing period of time. This is kind of like a game jam. So the ones that we've actually kind of helped build stuff, when they had something called iToy.
Oh yeah.
And they had this great thing where they just brought people in, even from the depths of the legal department and from the accountancy department and operations and all the other people who do amazing stuff. And this is another shout out that those people are important as well. And there are loads of them who've helped make loads of great games happen, who I never see at games events, and who just go to do their 9 to 5 or whatever, or a lot more than 9 to 5 actually, getting these games out, really QA, really making sure these games happen that aren't figures in the games industry, you should be completely. And anyway, so I was asked with a bunch of these guys to just kind of jam our way through some ideas for the iToy, which was just it was gesture gaming, whereby you wave your hand in front of the camera and you can interact with what's happening inside a digital environment. And so there are things like cleaning windows and things like that. And they just went for a whole load of really creative exercises. So they would say, remember 3 things that you enjoyed doing when you were at junior school. And then, talk for 5 minutes about 2 of them with the person next to you. And then, okay, between you decide to work on the game idea on one of those things. And that was it. And It was great. And it's really interesting because they did this for like 4 hours and we were exhausted by the end of it. And we know what that taught me? It taught me that the creative process is a disciplined process. And also it's an exhausting process. And a lot of people think that being creative is just,
throw shit together.
Throw shit together and being cool and having a few beers while you do it. But actually, it's exhausting being creative. It's exhausting. And the last time I had that...
Do you know what? I find contracts exhausting. I find creativity easy.
Well, I built my resilience for contracts. I built my resilience. Yeah, creativity is exhausting. Even the stupid things like when I was doing a quiz game and we ran out of... we ended up, because of our budget, having to write a lot of the quiz questions ourselves. And I wrote 100 questions about animal wildlife. And I didn't know that much, but we had a library and we had all the facts and figures and stuff, and making them entertaining and stuff like that. And it was exhausting. It really was, and took a lot of deep thought. And that's just a very minor thing, but I kind of... What was the question?
Well, the reason I asked the question, have you ever been to a game jam, is because I would imagine companies are formed at game jams.
Yeah.
Maybe not there and then, but a few people meet, programmer, artist, designer, audio guy or gal, and they have a spark happens, and 2 years later they've got a company, but they've got no business acumen, and so it might not go anywhere. And I don't know, I wonder if it'd be interesting for you to go to a game jam.
Yeah, I should make time. There's been times I've been invited and I've just been so busy. But yeah, I will. You know what?
Because you know what, when at the end of the 2 days or whatever, when everyone shows their game, it's really clear who the winners are.
Yeah.
Because the team gels, the game's great. They've only had 48 hours to make it, but they've achieved something.
Okay.
and they go away, and the vibe of that group of people is tangible.
Yeah.
You could spot that quite early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a card. Give me a call in 2 years.
Yeah. No. I should.
Just show up on the Sunday.
Yeah.
After the whole hard work's been done.
I think, I will challenge myself. I have been a bit lazy though, and part of it is that I have very successfully worked with the people that I want to work with, and I keep on working with amazing people because a lot of them are mates of yours, and
I can't believe it's taken us this many years to introduce you to Roll 7. I was really surprised.
Yeah.
That we hadn't talked about you before.
Yeah, no, we get on crazily.
They're amazing guys.
Yeah, they are. But it's the same energy. It's a good energy, and there are lots of people like that, and it's just a privilege. It's really nice. It's really nice to be able to choose people that you work with, so thank you, and I hopefully I introduce them to other people as well. I'm still looking for good accountants for the games industry. There's a few good ones.
Plus is great.
Yeah?
Yeah. In Brighton.
Okay. Yeah, because we use some people in Brighton. Okay. But yeah, so yeah, it's all about that kind of network of people helping each other and knowing, and like insurance is another thing that it always comes up as you grow as a studio. There's always a time when you work with a publisher or a partner and they've got that clause about you having to have some insurance, and it looks very scary, but it's manageable. And if you're going to do a little bit of work for hire, or even not just work for hire, but anyone's going to spend any money back in one of your projects, at some point you're going to have to dip your toe in the insurance waters, and
it's scary.
Yeah, but you can do it, and there are people that are specialised in that, and I could even quote you what I think it's going to cost, kind of thing, because I've done it a few times. So yeah, it's all about helping each other. So the game jam thing, I'll take that into consideration.
Bit of advice there, swooped in.
No, good, yeah. But as you said, do I listen to advice? Yes, but I actually I'm open to advice. So if anybody's listening to this and wants to give me advice, apart from, stop doing what you're doing because you're rubbish at it. Very, very open to it, because I actually find it hard. I kind of find that the people that are successful, that I want to give me advice, are quite content and don't go around kind of like giving advice, because they're a bit like, well, if you're intelligent and you want my advice, you'll find a way of getting to me. So I wish that I could just walk into bars and have all these amazing people advise me, but I find it quite hard to find those people. To the extent that I've given up on me being mentored.
Really?
Yeah, but I'll look at it again. But I think it's me having to. I can't just say, "Can you mentor me?" Because I'm such a weird person, like a lawyer who's made games and also advises on games and is in the band, and I'm a mess. So if anyone's listening to this and thinks that they can provide value or mentor me or even have a coffee, I'm open to conversations, because I always feel that you can learn from all sorts. My mum told me something the other day, it was mind-blowing. So, you can learn from anyone. So
indeed.
Yeah.
So, do you want to see Peaky Blinders?
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we wrap this up then?
Yeah, please. Well, thanks very much. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.